lot of great tournament games, preseason tournaments all around the country. We're going to surely dive into some of those as the week goes along. Great games. We don't have lines on all of them as of yet because a couple of the teams, like Texas, just played. Texas, which is shaping up to be fantastic. It just happened. So there's like lines out. But this slate is not the slate of the big games, which I think is what you're most is how we find value in the rougher games, the little known games, the games where there might be a lot of value because no one's paying attention. Because everyone's paying attention to Texas UConn, and it makes it harder to find value there. So we're talking some games that little off the beaten path here.
Yeah, and that's what I go for. As we've talked about before, I do a little bit more model watching than I do college basketball watching. And so, the model does not discriminate with whether it's, UConn and Texas or if it's, let's just say, Milwaukee and Stetson. The model sideline does not care, and therefore I do not care. So I just want to talk about where I think there's value and not necessarily how entertaining the game is going to be because, none of these games going to be very entertaining.
Yeah, but it is sometimes fun to watch terrible basketball. I feel like, as long as it's not like there's a level where it gets so bad. I'm thinking of watching IUPUI a couple of years ago. We watched a lot of them play Friday at 11 a.m. or something.
Yep.
And that was some rough basketball. As long as it's not that bad.
Yeah. Was that the COVID year or was that the year after that where at one point they had 7 players? That's what I remember.
I think that was the same year. I think it was the year after the big crazy COVID year that where nobody was saying that sort of thing. I think it was the year after that. So there were still some shutdowns from it, but it wasn't quite as bad. And I think that was also the year that they ended up at the end of the season where they only had, I think they had 5 players by the time they get to conference tournament. So thankfully, hopefully these are a little bit. The last one we have is a doozy, folks. Charleston, Bethune, Cookman. But we will cover some bigger games on this show over time, moving forward, et cetera. But that's not what we have here. Today, we have what we think are some good money-making opportunities. And we'll recap here what happened on Sunday. Cousin Jared, I explained this to our Discord, made a slight tweak in the model a couple of days ago after being disappointed with the A-grade performance. Nothing major, just a little bit of trying to make sure that the priors were honed in correctly. This is a player-based model, but the player-based model came out in the middle of last season, so I know how to balance the priors. When we have half a season's worth of data, I didn't quite know at the beginning, and I think it got it was a little bit rough around the edges. And so just a little bit of a tweak there, and I'm really optimistic with what we've seen since then. And you see here, we actually have taken 10 A-grade picks here on Sunday. Every single one of them was an underdog. And we generally lean that direction. All of them were money line underdogs and 5-4, but yet up 6 units. Almost one asterisk or one still playing right now is at halftime that is over plus 200 and hanging in there for us. So really pleased with that. And that's hopefully what we will continue to do here is go 500 with a bunch of dogs, and we'll sprinkle some favorites in there. We kind of did this with the NFL as well. If you're not with us in the NFL, you need to make sure you are, because with the Sunday night game still to finish, we are 8-0 this week in the NFL, and most of the time in the NFL we've been taking more dogs and going 6-3 and making a ton of money with the dogs. This week we took way more favorites and just decided we'll just win them all. Don't need to lose any of them. And that's what happened with college basketball. The same thing. We'll take some random favorites. We took a big favorite last week in Kansas. We'll do a few of that, but do more dogs. Because Jared, what do you have to add to that monologue?
This entire season I've been thinking you need to be here for NFL. It's done so well. You need to be here to enjoy the profits, less than $1 a day. You get all this great information. And it's gotten to the point where I feel like I just need to be look, however well we have done on the NFL this year, it's not sustainable. I am almost to the point of being able to admit that it's not sustainable. So it's gone past the point of you need to be here for this to, hey, look, can't expect this all the time. It has just been so good.
I really thought that after about 3 weeks ago, we had a really good week, and I was like, we just are not going to be able to sustain this level of performance. And then lo and behold, again, 8-0 with 2 games left. And
crazy.
And I think it was a great juxtaposition, because we're talking about personal ROIs in the 2 sports, and your ROI on Sunday your profits were probably pretty similar, and your ROI was about 70% for the day. College basketball and NFL going in two directions, right? In college basketball, doing it with a couple totals and dogs. In the NFL, a few more favorites, only one dog. The only dog we had to win was Packers. And a couple totals, but just two different ways, and yet still kind of landing around that 70% ROI for the day. And those big days like that can really help balance out. Again, there's the QR code on screen. You can use the promo code there on screen. You can use the link in the description of the show, and you can get $5 off your first month at Dub Club. And again, with the NFL, we can't promise that we'll do this every single week, but it's clearly not going away. After 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, we're still able to continue to churn an incredible profit, at least as of right now. Just on sides alone, we have a 29% ROI on the A grades, and it's 57 picks. So that's not like we're just doing here or there. So it's quite a thing over there. Otherwise, though, we'll get to it here. Start off with the Monday slate with Milwaukee and Stetson. This game is being played in Daytona Beach. Stetson with the A grade nickname of the Hatters. I mean, you cannot do much better than that.
No.
With regards to the actual game, these two teams are pretty similar. It's at a neutral site. Both these teams have to be pretty thrilled playing down in a tournament in Florida. Don't really know what's going to happen. And so plus 125 offers us enough value that, Cousin Joe, do you think it should be a part of our portfolio here on Monday afternoon? Tell us why this is the B grade of all the B grades you chose to include on the show.
Well, to your point, yes, Stetson, great team nickname for sure. You also said playing in a tournament in Florida, Stetson located in Florida. And so, not quite as big a travel spot for Stetson as it is for Milwaukee. Of course, you could easily convince me that the players from Milwaukee are much more excited to be in Florida than those from students from Stetson are. But still, a little bit of an easier travel spot for Stetson. But when you look at it, these offenses, dang near identical. Defenses, dang near identical. Like we said, easier travel spot for Stetson. Sideline makes this literally a pick'em. We've got 49 and 51% there, but it makes them a dead pick'em. There's four places in your rankings between these two teams. You have Milwaukee number 221, Stetson number 225. I think this is an interesting thing to note that in college football, you could have 4 places difference between two teams, and there would be a little bit of difference there. Definitely NFL. Major League Baseball, four places would be quite a bit different. In college basketball, you can go 4, 5, 10, 20, probably sometimes like 30 spots, and there'd be literally no difference.
Right in the middle. Yeah, it's like
there's
just a bunch of teams all together.
Yes, no measurable difference. And so really that's what I want to emphasize here is no measurable difference between these teams, absolutely at all. You've got Stetson with an easier travel spot, and you're getting plus 125 with two teams that are an even matchup. This is just one of those things that you can't pass up. I think anytime you get an opportunity to get something like plus 120, plus 125 in a pure toss-up game, you got to take it. So that's the analysis there. Two equal teams, and Stetson a little better travel spot, getting plus odds. I like it.
Yeah, about a half-hour drive from Stetson to Daytona Beach. And, of course, this is Milwaukee that is in Wisconsin, which there is only one Milwaukee in D1. But I do feel like with the 362 schools, you do have to always double-check on these because, obviously, Oakland is in Michigan. And, with all the teams coming up and down, it wouldn't shock me if I'm forgetting about one where there's a city and it's I forgot. There's Jacksonville State, for instance, right? People think about Jacksonville State and they think that that's in Florida. That's actually Jacksonville in Alabama. So, I always get to double check. But yes, this is Milwaukee in Wisconsin. It's quite a haul. And so a coin toss game at plus 125 is a nice little afternoon B grade pick. Take us to the evening slate here. 2 games starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. The first from UMass, Lowell, and St. Peter's. Because Jared, we talked, we're really high on this UMass Lowell team. They couldn't quite get it done for us. So close against Arizona State. If you took the spread, that worked out for you. And I think we talked about Sunday and how well it went. I think it's a great example of, we lost out taking the money line last time you were on the show and with UMass Lowell and UNT. Both of them covered the spread. Well, had we taken the spreads on all of these picks on Sunday, 5 and 4, makes you a little bit. It doesn't get you 70% ROI. And so it's the pros and cons. It's the ups and downs. It's the ebbs and flows. It'll happen. That's why I always say, with regards to moneyline or spread, I have a system of what I do. And so I make the official picks. I'm telling you what I think is the best thing. Usually the value's pretty similar. There's sometimes it's a percent or two difference, which I'm not going to say doesn't matter, but to some extent, you're going to get a better ROI line shopping than you are stressing about money line versus spread. But the line shopping, if I can get an extra half point here, I can save a nickel here, I can save a dime here, that sort of thing, that's going to get you a better returns than stressing over spread or money line. So you do whatever you want to do on that one. All that to say, we're not even touching the spread here. We're taking the total under 131. Average points in this one, according to Sideline, 125. Cousin Jared, I highlighted the totals last week that we starting to get really excited about what they're doing in this model. They are profitable by a decent bit. And then I talked about how I split it into overs and unders, and I split it into big edges and small edges. Lo and behold, big overs, small unders, big unders, small overs, all four of them, they're all profitable. The bigger over edges and the bigger under edges are more profitable than the smaller, which is what you would hope to have. This is one of the big under edges, and the big under edges have done really well this last week. After we've gotten out of that first week of excitement and everyone playing hard to the end, first game back, and now we're getting kind of into the swing of things, and this is where unders are going to start providing a little bit more value. Probably they sure have. If you've been taking our big under plays of what we give out on Dub Club, those highlighted in blue ones, and you are just making a killing. And this is one of those. Of all the totals, this is the one that you've highlighted. You might throw out another total of the day for us here tomorrow, so you might have one of those. Check over on TikTok and Instagram. We'll see. But Cousin Jared, if I had to guess, and we have not talked about this game one bit, but if I had to guess, I would say this under is all about one number, and that number, if you look at this on screen, is 362.
Yes, 362, because that is where St. Peter's ranks in pace. In all of college basketball, they are almost dead last.
No, they're dead last. That's it.
No, that's it. Okay, even better. See, I don't even exactly know how many teams are in Division I in basketball. So dead last in pace. UMass Lowell slightly above average. If you average these together, let's just say UMass Lowell's the better team here. Let's just say we give them a little bump. We say that they don't quite meet in the middle. That UMass Lowell kind of controls the pace a little bit more.
It's easier to speed up a team than slow down. They're a little better team. Yeah, it should lean a little bit their direction. Sure.
Yes. And so still you're looking at a pace of, let's say, 85 or 90. Still a for sure a lower game. I think with a lower pace game than average, with some potential to go even lower than that. The other thing that I was looking at was you're going to get a lot of averageness in this game as far as offense and defense goes, except for St. Peter's offense, which is fairly well below average. So not only do you have the pace consideration with St. Peter's there, but also the fact that their offense just isn't that great. UMass Lowell, I'm also wondering, them coming off back-to-back games against Georgia Tech, which they won, Arizona State, which we talked about, they lost by 2 points there. I think maybe a little bit of a letdown spot against St. Peter's here. And so, maybe they come out a little slow. I just think there's a lot of ingredients here that, in addition to the pace, but, is UMass Lowell really going to get super excited to be playing St. Peter's after the last two games they have played? I am not 100% sure. So, and if that happens, I think that manifests itself as a low-scoring game, because if St. Peter's is able to control the first part of the game, it's going to be low-scoring. So lots of different factors there, but I think under 131 is a steal. This is just too many points for the slowest team in college basketball.
And I think you make a great point there. And this is one of the things we always talk about. We like picks where we have multiple avenues to the window. And if UMass Lowell comes out sleepy and struggles on offense, we know St. Peter's is going to struggle on offense. That lends itself to an under. If for whatever reason UMass Lowell is excited to play somebody that's a lot weaker and really show their dominance and kicks the crap out of St. Peter's, you have to imagine that could manifest itself into a last 10 minutes of the game with a grand total of 17 points, because UMass Lowell might be up by 30 in that world if that were the case. And St. Peter's, isn't going to likely be able to score, and they're not going to play fast enough to want to score. And so it could just become a game where everybody's just trying to get it over with at the end. And it's almost like in football where you're just running the clock out, see that sometimes in college basketball too. So there's a couple of different ways that this could go. that helps us out. And we've seen in general, it's again easier to speed a team up than slow a team down. But when you have a team that this far at the bottom, they are in firmly Charlotte and North Texas territory, which were two strong under picks here on Sunday. It's easier to speed a team up, except for sometimes when you get these teams at the very, 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 very bottom, they can't be sped up because they just will not do it offensively. They're just like wide open layup. Nope, we're dribbling to the corner because we got to take 25 seconds. And they are great at defense in regards to cutting off easy buckets. And that doesn't mean St. Peter's defense is great, but they prevent the easy bucket. And so when you get these teams like this at the very, 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 very bottom, it's almost like throw out the rules of how pace tends to work. And that's just going to be the way the game's played. So much better chance this goes under than over. So we go under 131. I'm with you. It's way too. I should be in the mid-20s. Doesn't mean this game could finish at 110 or 140. And I mean, it's just sports, right? We get one observation. We're saying on average, this should go under. And that makes it a good, smart long-term play. And that's what we're banking on here is the long-term. We don't know what happens in one game. Our confidence is not in one game until we have responsible betting practices. But in the long run, this is the type of pick that's going to profit us. And speaking of, this one is a doozy here. Charleston Southern and Bethune Cookman. And my goodness, every rank of these teams is in the 300s. This is going to be terrible basketball. I kind of have to assume that it's not going to be televised. I hope it's not televised. But it kind of feels like the first game, the poor man's version of it, except lather, rinse, repeat with better odds. Except for we're making one slight adjustment, which is in this case, Sideline says Charleston Southern is the slightly better team, or maybe I should say the slightly less bad team. And that offsets the home court advantage of Bethune Cookman. And so another literal coin toss makes plus 142 a grade value. Cousin Jared, what do you got?
As I was going through and picking games, you mentioned there were a lot of neutral site games on this Monday. And one thing that I was looking for is I was really looking for like a home team that was playing a true home game that I could back, and couldn't find one. And so then what I was going to do was, okay, if there is no value on any of the home teams, which I think, maybe that's kind of insinuating that home court was being overvalued a little bit relative to what Sideline has here. The next thing I want to do is like, can I find a place to fade a bad team? And Bethune Cookman is a bad team, and Charleston Southern nothing to write home about either. But the fact that we're getting them at plus 142 odds is just kind of crazy to me. We talked about a lot of the teams being kind of smushed together and not much difference in the teams, but Bethune Cookman is getting home court advantage here, and it's still a toss up. And I always outliers, and I'm not going to go on my outlier spiel again, but Bethune Cookman is getting down to the point, right, rated number 352 according to Sideline, where you got to be really bad to be down there. And again, I'm not saying that Charleston Southern isn't terrible too; they are just terrible. But there's really bad teams down there. You throw in the home court advantage. Even getting that advantage is just a straight toss-up game. So love plus 142 here. It's like the first game we talked about, just better odds.
Better odds, and which is the difference with the grade. The grade is not about the probability of the bet winning. That is for a money line probability of win. I have that as well, right? It is the difference between the probability that we win and the price we're being offered. As we always talk about, the difference between the sharp and the square play is not the pick; it's the price of the pick. And that is one of the things here. We should be willing to take any team at any time in any situation as long as the price is right. And as bad as Bethune Cookman is, I would be happy to take them in the right situation. The issue here is that for whatever reason, Bethune Cookman is being favored in some shops in the minus 150, minus 160, minus 170 range. And it's hard to justify that as a money line price for Bethune Cookman against almost anybody. They are so bad. And it's like you said, not that Charleston Southern's good. It's more about neither one of these teams is good. Why am I getting plus 142 for two terrible teams when either, and this is one of those things too, the variance in this game is high. Either one of these teams could win by 15 and we'd be like, yeah, that's terrible basketball. But that's the point. Either team could win by 15, and it shouldn't shock anybody, which is why plus 142 offers us good value, because you get to the bottom here, and it's just nonsense. And one team hits and one team doesn't. And the effect of one team hitting or one team not hitting like magnifies down here at the bottom, because at the top, the talent is so close, the benches are so good that like if one team is like something's happening, they can at least like hang around, and you very rarely see just a complete meltdown. But some of these bottom teams, when things don't go right, they just completely melt down. And either one of these teams. Right. So yeah, who the heck knows? Plus 142, just great value. So here's our recap. If you're looking for more picks, again, Dub Club is the place to be. That sign up link to get you $5 off your first month is in the show description. Here is your first call of the week to join Dub Club. We will have many more, but one of the other things you will get, of course, is college football picks. Because Jared, you and I are about to do our college football show. If you're not with us over there, of course, be on the lookout for that. Make sure you watch that. Had a couple good weeks here in college football. Profitable season for the A grades over there. Not quite as good as the NFL, but still good. And we've got some college football picks about to be coming up, and all of the A grade picks, all the picks for that already been released to our Dub Club as well. So a bunch of reasons to be over there between all three of these sports happening. Because of Jared, parting words before we shift into college football mode.
No better week to be a part of Dub Club than Thanksgiving week. You got a couple of days off from work, most likely. Lots of college basketball on, lots of college football, lots of good reasons to ignore the crazy family that you're probably going to be forced to be in close confines with. Again, great week to join Dub Club.
Very, very well said. Very well said. All right. Well, that's all we've got for this episode. No extended cut because we're about to talk about football. So we will see you over on that show.